Valheim Expand World Prefabs Experience. Believe it or not, everything you see is completely vanilla friendly. So, I'm not going to explain anything more about that. You might not believe me, but it is. This is all vanilla. You just modify the server, and then everyone on the server, they get to do something different. Something they're not used to. It's now possible for all of us to make our own versions of Valheim with pretty much no programming experience whatsoever. If you can read a text file and you know how Valheim works, you've played it a lot, that's it. That's all you need. Path of Magic is an illustration of some of the things that are possible, but I'm sure that there's many people working on projects now that make Path of Magic look like it is boring and simple. So today we're going to be looking at the Goblins, because what I've been working on is a revamp of Goblin combat. And essentially, the Plains doesn't have any dungeon. And that is, I don't know, for me, interested in dungeon crawling and building, that's sort of a problem, let's say. Okay? So, the idea here is, how do we make it so that you can fight goblins and become able to, let's say, clear bases, build, clear goblin bases, build. You see what I mean? There's this ebb, this flow. And we've been working on this spot here. This is the, I don't know what to call it yet, but it's like the Plains Castle, the beginning of the Plains Castle. And now that I've got a proper spot set up, I know this isn't much, but hey, compared to before when we just had a little goblin hut and a little bed, we got a crafting spot, we got a foraging spot here, and we've even got multiple entrances and exits to the base for the moment. And our little blacksmith friend from earlier. So the base is, it's coming together. But today I'm not going to be working on building this unless I get tired of being killed by goblins, which is completely possible. But I'm not anticipating that. I have quite a tolerance for goblins ransacking me, let's say. So we're going to take this little cart here. We got a rested bonus. We got some FUD. And I'm going to look around and try and find something to get me a bubble shield, because it may look like I just throw spaghetti at the wall and I never try, but I swear. Oh, okay. No melee bubble for me from a 1-star mob. But I swear, I have been learning. I really have. And I know I need to get the bubble, and I can get the bubble from certain things, but in this case, I need to either increase my armor level a lot, increase my block from my shield a lot, or increase the amount of health that I have, because I think I'm pretty close to being able to survive a Deathsquito hit. The problem is just that I don't have quite enough health. So I'm probably just going to have to accept that, because I don't think I have much other health food. I've been tearing through the food in my inventory, right? And I spread it across the plains in the previous playthrough when I died doing goblin camps. But I guess I should just understand that when I'm fighting a starred enemy, I'm not going to have any luck if I try and get a bubble. I need to get my bubbles from non-starred enemies. And yeah, that's just pretty much how it is, right? So right now, I can probably use the fact that I have Corpse Run, because I think it increases your resistances, right? So I could probably survive an attack, but I don't know where that goblin went. I don't want to aggro that lock, so for now, let's just go ahead a little bit here. I hear something. Ah, there we go. Oh, it's a normal one. Perfect. Hey, hello, my friend. I've learned my lesson. You see, you gotta face the big structure, so that then when the goblin hits you, Yeah, he knocks back really far because of the level of this empowered shield, right? So I gotta trap him. But the normal goblins run around a lot, so it can be kind of hard to get them to go exactly to the same place. I wonder if they circle... I've never actually paid attention. But it's completely possible that they circle you in a predictable fashion. Like, maybe it's exactly 360 degrees, like one full circle. In that case, it was. But I think that's probably just luck. Hey, you're very agile, Deathsquito. Damn. Alright. I got it this time, though. I got it. I got it. Hey, Pan. Good morning. Or good afternoon, I suppose. I did the sword too late there. It was going to hit me, but I got lucky. Server saved me. Thank you. Thank you, server. I hope you're all doing well. It's been, I'm excited, to be honest. I have had, my mom's been here and I've been hanging out with her. And yesterday I gardened a bunch. And I haven't done a lot of permaculture recently. I guess I've never really talked about that, but I've been studying permaculture for, I guess, like 3 or 4 years at this point. And after I moved to Nicaragua, I got really into... Oh, no, I learned my lesson. I learned my lesson. No 1-star bubble. And I don't have the bubble, so I just have to fight him. But after I moved to Nicaragua, at first, I just, like, walked around in the nature. I wasn't, like, super inspired to actually garden, because I didn't really know how to. I didn't know what would grow here, etc. I didn't grow local things. But then over time, I eventually moved into a place that had access to this yard with this mango tree. And I was able to just, like, plant things and forget about them. And so over the past 2 or 3 years, I've been studying a lot about permaculture, especially after getting chickens. And it's... Oh, I did the greedy thing, but I got lucky. And that has made a big difference in my life. As a gamer to a gamer, I'm assuming you play games, because you're watching someone play games. The difference in my quality of life now that I have other outlets that involve some physical activity and nature and caring for other creatures, the difference compared to when I was younger and I pretty much only played video games all the time, I mean, it's insane how different life feels and how much more fun I have with video games now. I used to believe that, like, you can't recapture the experiences of enjoying video games that you had as a child because you liked them because of the circumstance and being a kid. That's what I thought. But it turns out, at least for me personally, I was completely wrong. Completely and utterly wrong. What actually happens is you have to have balance. You have to have people who like the games that you talk to. There's all these little elements. You have to have an element of freedom in your life that enables you to not worry as much. And when all of these variables are in place, you start to see that, wow, it's not that only children can enjoy games. It's that children are in a circumstance that allows them to enjoy games. And if you reproduce those circumstances in your life, you may find that you can enjoy games not even just as much as you did when you were a kid, but on even deeper levels because of the fact that you're maturing as a human and you have had other experiences and you can have more social interactions with others, develop things. There's more to, let's say, unfold into, so to speak. And that's why permaculture played such a big role, because before, I just didn't really, like, I didn't do other stuff that much. I just used the computer a lot. And I would often get quite sick because of that, and I didn't understand at the time. But really what was going on is that I was screwing up the muscles in my body. by how much I was hunching myself over onto a computer. And people make a lot of claims about genetics and all these different things, but the reality is, using a computer all the time causes inflammation in the muscles and the tendons and the fascia. And this puts pressure on your nerves, which produces headaches and nausea and all sorts of problems. And then people don't realize that this is going on. So they react to these pains and these migraines and these issues by trying to get help, by going to doctors, by getting on pills, by taking painkillers. All of these things that ultimately have absolutely nothing to do with the actual origin of the pain, the posture and way in which we hold our bodies, the sedentary nature of our lives. This is where the pain really comes from. So any habit you can get that keeps you moving around a little bit more, even if it's just a little bit each day, it makes a huge difference. And so when I'm talking about permaculture, I just realized now, like, yeah, I've been immersed in permaculture and studying it for a while, and I don't need to look at videos. I can practice it as long as I have nature to toy with and observe. But I see other people don't know what permaculture is, right? So permaculture is something that will sound impossible if I tell you how it works. So I'll start there. But basically, people think that plants take. Like, they only take away from the soil. Right? Like, if you think about having a garden, you have to keep fertilizing that garden, right? You have to keep adding things to it, right? What if I told you there are ways to not have to add anything because the garden's variety of plants do all that autonomously? Oof, jump saves the day. You see, in the West, we practice what is called monoculture. We try and make a scientifically perfect environment for a single plant. And in doing so, we produce, at scale, a highly unhealthy, perfect environment for loads of pathogens and harmful organisms. Our intention misguides us, and we produce. What the? Why you? Did you just attack your own house? What was that about? And this intention produces. Oh, I'm gonna die now. Gonna die. Oh, I didn't die. I didn't die. Wow. Oh god. Dead. Yeah, I definitely died. Okay, I deserve that. I ran straight into the camp. Hey, and the alert worked. So if you look into the chat, here you see it says this tombstone will be destroyed if the location is reset. So I need to adjust that actually so that it puts a message onto the screen. But I want to give players, I want to communicate more with players about how, like, in Path of Magic, if you die in certain areas, it is possible for the tombstone to get deleted because of respawning dungeons that are force reset. And I'm okay with that. I just don't want players to experience it, and that's how they learn about it. If that makes sense. I want players to get informed about it. So I need to, oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So I need to do a better job of making that particular mechanic inform players about itself, right? So this was just a test to see if it would get noticed, and it did. It says this tombstone will be destroyed if the location was reset. And so Glenroyd says, what were you doing? Trying to see how many goblins you could get in the same place to attack you? Well, that's what happened. But that's not what my intention was. My intention was actually to skirt around the outskirts and chat about subjects as I was fighting goblins. But I went into the camp as I got distracted talking about permaculture, because I just love permaculture, and I get obsessed if I bring it up, and then I start trying to explain everything. And I forgot that I was like not supposed to run into the center of the camp, and I'm supposed to stay on the outskirts. And yeah, you see that that's what happened. You know, it actually reminds me of something I would do when I played World of Warcraft. I played classic WoW a lot, and my favorite thing to do of all, I played a hunter, and I was like the raid pulling hunter. So I got a pretty good gear. I was like decked out in Crypt Stalker, and I had not the best weapon in the game, but like the second best, and an Ashbringer, corrupted Ashbringer. And I played a survival hunter, and if you don't know WoW, that's like a meme build because it sucks for damage. But what's so hilarious, I found that people have so little experience fighting against them that you can trick people into thinking you're a different class. So basically, I would do dungeons and use a bunch of invisibility potions and make them. And then I would go into Orgrimmar with this like super geared character, right? And then I would act like I was a rogue by using an invisibility potion and then opening on another player with melee. But I was actually a hunter, right? But they don't know that. So they would end up thinking I'm a rogue and try and run away from me. And then I would just kill them, because if you run away from a hunter, like, hunters have a lot of power at range, so you have to close the gap, right? So it tricks the person into doing the opposite of what they should do. And it was really, really hilarious. But I would always, like, most of the time, I wouldn't kill the person and I would die. And then all of the horde in the capital would just absolutely wreck me. I went in for the second hit. That was the Dark Soul moment. But that Goblin camp moment was very similar, because when I would do that, I would go to Orgrimmar at like peak time when I knew a bunch of guild people were there, and I would try and like kill one of them while they were all in voice chat, right? Like getting ready for something in their capital city, just because I know that's kind of an asshole thing to do, but I wouldn't do it to low level players. I only targeted like raiding players, right? Because I loved the psychology of them getting killed in their capital city by what they consider a meme build. It was just like, I don't know, like I enjoyed that too much. But whenever I did that, I would get wrecked, and almost immediately, like within 5 seconds or 10 seconds, maybe 20 seconds, and if I'm lucky, I'd escape. But all of the horde nearby would then come and kill me, because they were confident, like, this guy's gonna get wrecked, right? But then they would all get PvP flagged. And then I had more targets later, right? So that was the kind of thing I occupied myself with. And I found that it was really bad for me. Like, it was very, very thrilling, but in a way that taught me about a very toxic gameplay loop. Not because of what I was doing. I mean, realistically, these people, like, they had a graveyard right outside their capital. It's not like I was, like, killing world buffed players or something. I mean, maybe I accidentally did at some point, but I really was not trying to. I was just fighting people and trying to trick them into thinking I was a rogue so they'd run away from me and I could shoot them. Like that was all there was to it. It wasn't something very complicated. But what it teaches you is like that if you put the player in a super dangerous situation, and they get used to it over and over again, this weird brain thing happens where time like slows down. I don't know if you're gonna believe me, but like imagine you're in a game where there's PvP and you're in the enemy's capital city and there's like 10 to 20 people who can fight you, and you have like 10 seconds, 20 seconds to fight them before somebody notices what you're doing, right? And then you just get slaughtered. And there's something that happens in those 10 or 20 seconds that makes it's like a roller coaster. It is so incredibly thrilling But then, after that, you have this downtime where the Alliance in that situation had to, like, do a really long corpse run, right? And it would take me like 5 minutes to get back to my body. So it made this dynamic where most of my gameplay when I was doing that was running back to my body and waiting for the resurrection timer. Because it's not like I would do it perfectly. Like, I often died and didn't even kill the person I was trying to target. But then sometimes I'd get really lucky, right? And I'd, like, kill someone, kill another person, and then, like, be able to use one of the other invisibility potions. Because the invisibility potion had, like, a 10-minute timer. But then after 2 minutes, you could use a lesser invisibility potion. If I remember right, that's how it worked. So I would mess around with things that way. And it was really hilarious watching people try and find me. So my like, ultimate strategy, basically, was to get a bunch of attention by thinking all these players can kill me. And then, basically, escape. Ideally, after having, like, killed someone in broad daylight in front of everyone else. That was the ultimate goal. It didn't always succeed, but occasionally it did. Hey, there we go. These freaking red goblins. Sorry, it's hard for me to keep track of what I'm saying and stay alive against these guys. Hey, you're very fast. I don't appreciate how fast that guy is. But let me try and finish the story I was trying to explain. So I'd use these invisibility things to get away from people, right? And the idea was, like, you want to publicly kill someone in the capital city in front of everyone else and then escape and then watch them look for you. That's what I would do. And the reason I could watch them look for me is because I played a night elf. And night elves had this shadow meld ability, so you could just, as long as you found one spot that you could chill in, you could just stay there and you'd be stealthed. And I learned that Orgrimmar has a crap load of these kind of spots, right? So you can just hang out and do that. And it taught me about this very high intensity gameplay loop. And I don't want to do that in games. Because it was very thrilling and very enjoyable, don't get me wrong. But also at the same time, I saw what it was doing to my mind. And then I played Valheim. Because that, again, I know this seems completely irrelevant to what I'm doing in Valheim. But it actually is why Valheim became so meaningful for me. I was playing classic World of Warcraft, like, raiding when Valheim came out, so to speak. Came out to my awareness, rather. And that's the kind of thing I was doing. And I saw what happened to my mind when I was playing Valheim. And how much healthier it was. And the contrast between this, like, 5-10 minutes of downtime and then roller coaster thrills that's like 10-20 seconds of incredible thrills. The contrast of that to then playing a creative game like Valheim, and with the rested bonus in particular, that really blew my mind, because I was like, dang, Valheim, Irongate knows that it's better to do things for a little bit and then go back. That's what I'm assuming, like, that's the mentality behind the rested bonus. It's like they understand the importance of taking breaks, and that's really rare. And for me, that was it was like a big inspiration, because if you played classic WoW, especially if you played Era, that's what I was playing. Like, when classic WoW first came out, when the redo of classic WoW first came out, let me be clear, not original vanilla. I didn't really raid that much in original vanilla. I'm talking about when, I don't know, a couple years ago, quite a while ago at this point, classic came out, and Blizzard, like, officially relaunched the beginning World of Warcraft servers, right? And I got really into that and played a lot. And that was when I started playing Valheim. And it was that contrast, that difference in the health, basically, of one game versus the other. And, like, how just very simple mechanics kind of changed all that. So I have a strong feeling I'm gonna get killed. I really hate fighting Loxin, to be honest. I'm just gonna run away, and I'm gonna hope that these guys forget about me, and that hopefully I can get that Berserker. There's something about Loxin. I know this isn't even like a crazy Loxin. It's just a 1-star Loxin. Hey, chill out. What did you even damage? Ah, I know what he damaged. Okay. But the Loxin are so fast. It's so easy to like get messed up by them. Oh, nope, that didn't work. So I try and I've died so many times to Loxin. I just try and avoid fighting them, to be honest. I prefer fighting goblins. Oh, I know what to do now. Here, we need to get my body back, basically. But I can take advantage of the fact that now there's multiple entrances and exits, right? So I can come in here, and then these guys will be over there. Hey! It's a good thing these vegetation acids are indestructible. Whoa! You see, okay, that's why I don't like Loxin. They are just insane. They move so quickly. They yeet you back. They have like this crazy block armor thing going on. And right now, I'm not going to survive a Lox attack, so... Whoa. Where's the goblins? Okay. I don't even have enough health to take a hit from one of these regular ones. I got to try and get my tombstone back so I get corpse run. Hey. Calm down. Heavy armor is so slow. I think I'm getting used to it, though. Like, I feel much more aware of the fact that I'm wearing heavy armor now. Whereas before, I kept trying to play as if I was not wearing heavy armor, which obviously isn't very good. Ah, yeah, my body's in the middle of the heavily populated goblin camp. That's right. I guess I got to do some hit and run. So what do I do about this food situation? I don't think I can take a hit from one of these goblins, so I guess I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to get closer to the base. And then I'm going to try to take a hit to get a bubble shield. Because once you get that first bubble shield, technically, you can stay alive and you can know what to do. Technically. But maybe I can't even get the first hit. Either way, I'll get corpse run when I get my body back, if that's the case. Ah, no, we're good. Yeah, so now I just have to keep this bubble up. Even if it's against a really powerful monster like this one. I can stun him, right? And then stab him. Uh-oh, bubble. I'm okay, cool. Uh-oh, they're gonna kill me? No, I'm good. I stunned him. Whew. Oh, alright, that was intense. Ooh, that was intense. I lost my bubble. But I survived. And now I have the movement speed buff. So you get the movement speed buff when you use any tower shield, but not from just equipping it. You have to block an attack. And that helps the heavy armor feel good. So the combination of using heavy armor combined with tower shield gives you two things. When you block, you're going to get that increased movement speed. And then when you wear the heavy armor and you block, or sorry, when you put something away, so let's like sheathe the sword and then put it away. If you're noticing, my Mead of Troll Endurance buff is refreshing. And that's actually because any heavy armor set in Path of Magic will give you the Mead buff when you put something away or put it back. Make sense? So let's see. We don't want 2 stamina foods because it's harder to get that magical bubble. And as you've seen on Palm, that bubble's really important. One of the players, Eric, has a phrase, live and die by the bubble. It's very apt, to be honest. Very, very apt. You can take like unlivable situations and be completely fine if you just know how to utilize the bubble system. In this case, I am just trying to get my stuff back so I can have some more food. And I think I'll be alright. I'll probably be able to lose most of the goblins just by like running up this hill and into these woods here. And now let's get some of this health food. Hey, you don't look like... that looks reasonable. Let's see. I think if it's just this group, I can fight them. But let's see. Are they all melee? That would be awesome. Ranged goblins are the biggest threat. Like, one of the reasons I love fighting goblin is because of the dynamic of their group combat. Especially when there's like a camp and a shaman and that kind of thing. And I've learned a priority, right? So basically, the priority goes shaman, ranged, and you can learn to habitually stay alive from melee. Because as long as you don't move into a tree, and you're always running away and you hold shift the moment they start attacking, they'll pretty much never hit you unless you're around other people and you experience multiplayer lag. The easiest way to deal with that is to imagine that another player makes the enemy's hitboxes bigger. So like it's as if they're wielding spears instead of little tiny swords. And they can hit you from far away, so you have to stay quite far away to survive. So in this case, I don't think I can take a hit from any of them. So I can't really use the bubbling up strategy. And I also lost my rested buff. So instead of that, I'm going to try poisoning them because I actually have some ooze bombs from earlier. So what I can do is try and group them up a little bit. I need to restore some of my stamina. Hey, there we go. Here we are. And the way the ooze bombs work, you'll do a lot less damage if you poison them over and over and over again. You do refresh the damage cycle, so it's not like it doesn't do any damage, but in general, you want to wait for the poison to go away before you reapply, so to speak, right? And they ran away because they were taking damage and couldn't get to me. So let's see if we can probably fight them more reasonably now. Let's see. I just need to like trigger him into actually fighting me. Yeah, it looks like that's not happening. That actually hit him. I thought I missed. Where'd he go? Oh, he died. Okay, okay. Uh-oh. Oh! I tried to jump. That did not work at all. I'm in a vulnerable position here. I hear the buzzing. Alright, buzzing. Oof. Oof. That was close. I'm glad those heals are more reliable, though. That's pretty nice, to be honest. I like that. Alright, Mr. Pack Leader. Why don't you run away? It looks like this is a nice rock to fight on. Because they can't get up here, which is not... don't assume, by the way, that the goblin can't get onto the rock. They often can. Especially when there's multiple of them, right? So I'm going to do some poisoning here, and I'm going to look at Pan's comment. Sorry, Pan, I meant to respond earlier, but I was going on a rant as usual. So Pan says, so spear throwing goblin without circling is... Absolutely. Pretty much all ranged monsters in Valheim, and almost all normal monsters, if you get in the habit of just running circles around them, you can learn to just like stay alive pretty well. And that's why like I probably have a... I know I die a lot, but because I'm so used to that and the other experiences, I'm like more familiar with staying alive when there's a whole bunch of enemies around. And I find it quite fun, even if I die after like 30 seconds. I love those 30 seconds, if that makes sense. It's very thrilling for me personally. Now, let's see. This guy, there's no way I can take a hit from him. I guess I have to just kill him traditionally, right? Let's getting poisoned. Start blowing things up a little bit here. I'm slowly getting the hang of these arrows, but I gotta say, oh gosh, oh gosh. Ah, I see. So Pan says, I meant when it was empowered and didn't circle, so no dodging. It stood in place while in range. Ah, yeah, I see what you mean. It's true, it's true. So from my perspective, there's certain enemies that, I don't mind enemies having situations where they become, where there's a more predictable variant. I find that Palm is very challenging, and the moment there's multiple enemies in a fight, the dynamic changes a lot. And I want to be able to not just add harder things, if that makes sense, because that's easy, but it's not deep. There needs to be kind of an ebb and a flow, not just ebb. If that makes any sense. And that's something that, wow, that was a bad shot. That right now, from my perspective, in a lot of situations, there's not enough friendly outcomes. There's too much danger that's focused on the player. I'm not saying a whole lot too much, but it's definitely an amount too much from my perspective. Like, for example, I like it when you're fighting and then suddenly a Dverger shows up and saves the day. But then after a little bit, that Dverger gets killed by other monsters, right? Like, that's the general idea. I was hoping that would, shotgun style, using that bow, and it did not work. The elemental arrows on Palm are a little different, so you can actually do this kind of like very slow or very quick attack, which normally wouldn't do much damage, but because Palm has like explosions and stuff, the explosion still activates, right? So you can do it multiple times and kind of spam it, right? Like this. And in that way, it makes the bows and stuff be a little bit more like magic spells. So you have to be very careful, right? There's that delay. And if you're close to it and you spam the explosion, then like it's gonna kill you. It's not just a simple thing to survive, right? They're like bomb arrows. One thing that's funny, I don't really understand why, but if you hit the enemy with the arrow, it explodes like straight away. But if you don't hit the enemy with the arrow, it explodes a little bit after, which is very confusing to me from a server perspective. I don't really understand that. Oh gosh, freaking locks. Can I survive a hit from this locks? Let's see. I don't really understand why the server notices. Oh yeah, that didn't work. I should have tried to survive a normal bite, but I don't understand why the server notices the hit sooner. Because when you see the explosion, what's actually happening is that the server is noticing, hey, there's a fire arrow getting destroyed. Does that make sense? You shoot it, the projectile goes through the air, it hits somewhere, and it disappears. It's definitely odd that it notices quicker when you hit an enemy. To me, that seems weird. I don't understand why, because it should be the same. But I must not understand something, obviously. So let's see. Pan says, Frost outperforms fire arrows versus berserkers a lot. Kind of hard counter. Oh yeah, I mean that makes total sense because you have to. It slows the mob down a lot. Honestly, I just really like fire arrows. I love how they explode. I've always had a thing for the bomb arrows in Wind Waker. In particular, Wind Waker's like one of my absolute favorite games, especially as far as Zelda games go. I love Wind Waker. It's really, really fun. Goblin Berserker event. Oh, shit. This guy has hunt mode on. God dang. Okay. Let's see. What arrows can I make? Because I don't think I have any frost axe. But maybe... I have some poison arrows somewhere, but where? Ooh, I just need to make another workbench upgrade. Oh, that's because it got destroyed. Okay, I got this. I just make a hammer. You know, how often am I... Whoa! Wait, what? He's hitting the bell. Yeah, so, that particular enemy is not affected by the builder's bell, as far as I know. There's certain enemies that they seem to be immune to it, and I never figured out why, because it just coincided that it's the really strong enemies that are immune to it. So, it just sort of worked. I don't want to go up there. Oh man, alright. We need one flint chopping block. And then we can make poison arrows, right? Oh no, I need to make one more. Can I even do that? Ah, yes, I have an ads now. Perfect. Meanwhile, that guy's just going nuts above me. So here we go. I get about 40 poison arrows. That's funny. Now what I'm gonna do is, let's see. We're gonna take poison arrows. Wait, what's that noise? That's the noise. That's the sound of a shaman. Ah, wow. These Avengers are gnarly. Whoa, dude. You've been going to town. All right, I guess that's what I get for turning hunt mode on. Oh, gosh. Yeah, okay. So... Oh, man. Now these enemies are going to indefinitely chase me. So I'm going to just try and get my body back. So I can, like, run. Uh-oh. Oh, I got lucky. Eee, they're so fast. It's like I gotta make sure that I unequip my weapon at the exact right moment and I'm not near a wall. Here we go. Let's go in here. But I gotta say, fighting in these things is pretty cool. It ends up being quite useful. All right, Mr. Goblin Avenger. Whoa. Oh wait, does he circle? I thought he was like a tough monster. I can explain the Avengers. Because basically they'll always show up in kind of a weird place because of how they're... Not a weird place, but they'll catch you off guard. Because they spawn with hunt on. So that means that they always know where the player is. So basically if there's a hunt mode monster in an area and a player loads that area, that monster will... It's as if the player made a noise and the monster knows that the person's there. So every time you kill an enemy in a goblin camp or nearby it, there is a chance for that enemy to trigger an Avenger, which will spawn and then come in from the side, so to speak. It's designed to try and, like, make the goblin camp experience more continuous, essentially. All right. Let me use a little bit of strategy here. First off, let's have some food items. Oh my gosh. I wonder how many times I've been saved by jump dodging. Yeah, I don't know if you've noticed, but I pretty much don't dodge roll. Instead I use shift to dodge, like actually dodge basically, instead of dodge rolling. I personally don't like the dodge roll mechanics. I get that it's normal, but like I don't know. I'm just irked by like boss fights and we just like roll around clockwise around the body and we get iframes and then we're invincible, and it's like, it just seems kind of stupid to me. Like, what's the point of all this armor and shit if you can just roll on the floor and you're magically invincible while you're doing it? Like, I don't know. I guess it's normal though, so it's expected. So if you don't put it in your game, like, you're gonna hear it, right? People are gonna complain. Okay, and these Avengers, yeah, they spawn basically with tough mode on. Ah, shit. Sorry, I thought I was gonna die. And they spawn with hunt and tough mode. So you can see how if I was fighting just one enemy, well, it wouldn't be a problem, would it? But because I'm fighting multiple enemies, I don't get much of a chance to... Okay, now's my chance. I have to get over here, and I have to get an attack in. And I didn't get it in time. Yeah, now I healed both of them. You see, it's like... It's quite challenging, even though it's just 2 mobs. Well, I guess 3 because of the locks, right? That spot, just those 2 changes make a huge difference in the combat, basically, right? Alright, somehow I did not have the poison arrows equipped. Alright. I guess that's fine. I'm not going to be able to get rested because of this guy, right? Hey, where's that guy? Someone, I hear a Diverger Mage. I hear something outside. Uh-oh. Hey, calm down, calm down, calm down. Well, this bunker seems pretty safe. I mean... Oh wait, is that guy gonna get in here? So the teleporting mechanic can get enemies into areas that they might not normally get into. I think I can clip them from up here. Let's see. Yeah, right now I'm just trying to kill the shaman for the most part. Brutal. Alright. Because having just one melee monster isn't so bad. It's not so bad, basically. Oof, oof. Ah, hello, Michael Josia. Welcome, welcome. They say, here, I'm still waiting for the next biome. Smiling blue face. Can't wait! Ooh, I'm glad I'm underneath this guy. Yeah, I bet the Deep North is going to be pretty cool, to be honest. Mostly because Bogwitch was so these hunt mode monsters are terrifying. Like, holy crap, they're 2-star. And maybe I should make them temporary, because I don't... This is like a big issue from one enemy being so strong. And they'll come and get you, right? It's like it's a boss. It just knows immediately that you're there. So that's very intense. So I'll probably adjust that so that the hunt monster only... Wah! Freaking locks. I'll adjust it so that the hunt monster... Maybe it only stays for like... I don't know... a couple minutes or something. And then it just disappears. Because there's a chance for one of these to spawn every time you kill something. So without no... Of course. Without... Without... Oh, now he's empowered? Oh, classic. Great. Without realizing it, you could make like a whole pack of them. And that's highly problematic, right? Like, you see how much I'm having trouble just... because of 1 or 2 of them, right? So I definitely need to make them temporary. I'm gonna add that to the implementation list. I like the mechanic, and I like the way they show up very organically. You don't see them spawn, they just come to you and sort of know you're there somehow, right? So that's quite interesting. So I'm opening the implementation list and adding make Avenger monsters temporary. Disappear after maybe 5 minutes? 2 minutes? I don't know. Something like that. Anyway, alright, that's implemented. Now what do we have? We have, I guess I could make some needle arrows. I don't have any non-explosive arrows, which is probably not useful. What? Wait, what? 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 Did you... Wait, what the hell? Did you... I'm confused. What just happened? Wait, now everything... Okay, whatever. It must be some kind of mod interaction. Ah! Calm down, Mr. Berserker. I'm not trying to cause you any problems. You've already destroyed everything here. Oh, I wonder if he destroyed the chest in there. I hope he didn't destroy the nonsense chest. That would be a huge pain. Alright, I think I got this now. Because that locks... That locks is a problem. Oh, wait, when it becomes empowered, it loses hunt? Hey, that's awesome! Yeah, okay, so you see how that enemy isn't coming to get me? That means he lost hunt mode. He's now a normal, empowered Goblin Berserker Avenger. Oh, okay. I think I got this. I think I got this. Alright, so I need to run around in here. I don't know what happened to that shaman, because I didn't kill him. I don't think I killed him, at least. Let's see. Alright, we got our health foods. Let's let our corpse run heal us a little bit here. And I just need to get a bubble up, and then I'm going to be good. And this locks in here. Oof, that was close. This locks in here is going to help me. I think I can tank one hit from the Loxin, and hopefully it will throw me back so I can then not get killed by the Goblin. There we go. Alright, I got my bubble up. Here's the loop. So this is the thing that makes bubble blocking so crazy. You see, now I can just stay alive, and it's all about having that one weaker monster. And what's so interesting about this is that normally in Valheim, the starred mechanic, I would say, is over-tuned, if that makes sense. The 2-star enemies are so powerful that they often become quite abrasive for players because they kind of bypass a lot of the existing mechanisms in Valheim because of how much damage they do. So players are used to not being able to block a 2-star monster, for example. And you learn in vanilla Valheim to just sort of ignore 2-star monsters and be very, very, very careful with them. And I like the way that this has played out. This wasn't on purpose, right? But now I've been able to use a weaker monster to then... to then cause a situation, right, where I'm able to get something. Hey, there we go. Some success, hooray. Where I'm able to use melee combat in a deeper way, right? And then once you have that bubble up, as long as you don't use it, you are incredibly powerful. But the moment you get hit twice within the same, I don't know, there's a window. Let's say it's like, I don't know, like 8 seconds, something like that. Oh, do you see what just happened? You can use the Lox's trample damage to activate. Oh, holy crap, that's good to know. That means that even a starred Lox can give you a bubble shield. Oh, yeah, okay. So little things like that. You see, normally that is completely irrelevant, you know? But there, and it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Like, if I told you, okay, I'm gonna fix starred monster combat and make it more balanced, right? And the way I'm gonna do that is by giving players a magical bubble shield when they block with a shield. Like, does that sound very logical? I mean, to me, it seems like an indirect thing to do, right? And that's why I can't like come up with the ideas for those things. They just kind of happen accidentally. Because it's hard to think of what like indirectly causes something to happen. Alright, here we go. So basically this guy, he's taken away my bubble shield, right? And what I'm gonna try and do is get a bubble from the trample damage. I don't know how to take the trample damage though. No, trample me over here, come on. Uh-oh. Ah, yeah, I knew that was gonna kill me. The moment I was in that ditch, I was like, oh no! Alright, that's fine though. And you see why locks are like, oh man. From my perspective, locks are incredibly challenging compared to goblins. I think it's because like the goblins, they add to each other's difficulty more incrementally, whereas a locks is so fast, at least on very hard mode, which is what the world modifier for Palm is, that it's quite hard to manage the locks in melee combat. Unless you have some like pierce damage stuff, then it becomes easier. I'm not saying it's impossible to fight a locks. I just find that compared to fighting Goblin, I enjoy fighting the Goblin more, and this is just my pet Goblin now apparently. We're just gonna leave him there. I seem to have made a one-way monster trap into my base. Definitely needs some work there, but we're gonna do more of that in the future. For now, I want to keep trying to fight this one goblin camp. That's what I'm gonna focus on. And it should be easier now because I've kind of cleared those monsters that were giving me a really hard time. Now I have some level of food back. Let's see. I have bread, this, no sausages though. I guess I'm stamina man now. Alright, alright, alright. Now let's put all this away. And we have these poison arrows, and these are gonna come to play a critical role. Let's organize the inventory a little bit here. We don't need a lot of this nonsense. So many eggs. Interesting how empowered mobs in the plains drop eggs. That is another not purposeful thing that ended up happening. But honestly, it works out. So instead of trying to aggro that camp, I'm gonna use the thin them off strategy here. And I'm gonna take advantage of the fact that these poison arrows are crazy, crazy powerful. And we're gonna use these. I should have opened with this, but whatever. An empowered fueling, huh? Yeah, and so this is what Pan was talking about. You see how he just keeps trying to throw the spear at me? And he doesn't run around? And that makes him very weak. So they're weak when they're alone. But then the moment you're around one of these guys and a bunch of other enemies, suddenly them throwing a spear at you every tick becomes a huge problem. And that's something I love. I love it when enemies alter each other's dynamic. It's something I generally go for, and so for me, I don't mind that it works that way. I like it that there's tougher enemies. I like it that there's different behavior types of enemies, because it helps unsettle the player a bit, because I don't think that there needs to be lots of unpredictability in the enemies like combat and what they're doing, but I do think that there needs to be more than one basic pattern. Like most of the enemies in Valheim follow the exact same pattern, and they just circle you and then attack you once, maybe twice, and then circle you and attack you once, maybe twice. And once you learn that that's what's really going on, it feels, well, for me at least, it feels kind of cheap, because I can then apply that same strategy to pretty much every mob in the game. And I'm not saying that's always true, because Iron Gate's definitely learned a lot, and you can definitely tell from the Bog Witch update that like they're not doing just vain things. They're doing very purposeful things. They added monetary sinks. They added a lot of very useful practical needs. So like I personally, I think Iron Gate has done a really good job with Valheim. I don't blame them for the situation. I understand that there's loads and loads and loads of players who are really fed up with Iron Gate, and you know, a lot of those players may have good reason to feel that way. I just don't. I view it as situational. I don't view it as Iron Gate's fault. The COVID pandemic caused so many crazy things to happen, and like, you have to understand that a lot of people, it's very hard for them to show their face and be very open and put themselves out there, because suddenly, like, I'm just gonna tell you straight up, as a person who's been putting themselves out there publicly for over a decade, I've cried in videos. I've put myself out there very, very publicly and emotionally in these things, and I've grown tremendously from doing this. It's made me a very powerful person emotionally. I can handle things that most people can't handle, and I can be fine. And one of the reasons for that is because I've put myself out there in such vulnerable positions that once you do that enough, you just stop being as insecure. You stop feeling that. But that being said, I had to go through I don't know, like a 5-6 year process and manage the conflict and pains. And some of the most intense parts of my life were when bigger YouTubers were talking a lot of shit about me, and their audience members would attack me. When I was involved in the dropshipping scene, that's basically what happened. I was sharing information, and then I started hanging out with this guy who was quite wealthy, and people assumed I was also quite wealthy. So when they found out that I was not rich, even though I had never said I was, like, they just weren't listening to me. I was talking about the fact that, like, I just mess around. I'm trying different things. I'm doing this, and I just want free time. That's what I care about, not money. So, like, they obviously weren't listening to me, right? But back then, I thought people actually listened. And there's a lot of things I thought about people back then that I just didn't. I was very naive. Mostly, I thought people were okay. And they're not okay. People are doing very badly for the most part. And I don't mean like, oh, in impoverished third world countries in Africa, people are sad and they don't have food, so you should be sad. I mean, like, in the West, like in the US where I'm from, people for the most part aren't okay. Even people who are okay usually are workaholics, and they're not really okay. Like, they're not happy. That's been my experience with people. Maybe you don't agree, and you know very many happy people, and that's awesome. But I've just found that to not be the case. And back then, when other YouTubers and stuff were talking shit about me, like, it's rough to wake up and there's just, like, if you make the mistake of looking at your social media and there's like tens or sometimes hundreds of comments just talking shit about you, attacking you, specifically because of something from somewhere else or something they feel or think about you. Not because you did this and they don't like it. Make sense? I'm not talking about when, like, you know, if there was an Iron Gate update and it screwed over something people really cared about, and then they were talking shit. I'm not talking about that, because that's kind of reasonable. That's not the experience that happens. What happens when you start putting yourself out there is you attract a lot of people who just watch and actually care about what you do. But as the creator, you don't experience that because you see the comments that people write. And this makes you think incorrectly that most of what people say in comments is how most people who are watching feel. And I've come to understand that it is actually the opposite. There is pretty much always a silent majority that has an unspoken opinion that isn't heard. And then there's these fewer, really loud-mouthed individuals who complain a lot and are sometimes quite toxic. And it creates this impression that everybody feels like those loud-mouthed people. But that's not even true. They are actually a minority, and that's why they need to talk so much to make a fuss. They are not how most people actually feel. And you can't know how most people feel by reading Reddit. You will literally just see how these people who are suffering and very sick, not all of them, I'm not saying everybody on Reddit is mentally unhealthy, but most people, most humans are mentally unhealthy. So when you factor this in, you have to understand that most of the things people say are delirious. They don't really know what they want in many cases, and they are suffering so much that the thing that they do want above all else is to feel included, to feel like other people agree with what they say, because deep down, they are incredibly lonely. Incredibly. We're talking about people. I won't even try and predict what things they've been through in life, but I will say that most people had parents who were too absent or separated or forced to work constantly for other reasons. And this has a side effect in our culture. When I say our, I'm talking about English-speaking world. That's when I say the West, that's pretty much what I'm referring to. Our culture, yes, we do have a culture, is to fail our children. And, oh, that was a 1-star goblin, of course. But our culture is to fail our children and obsess about career. And don't get me wrong, I can already hear you, but I have to work. And that's true. But we don't have to be so accepting of this reality that money is needed. And I've personally found that most of the time, people lie to themselves. They tell themselves they have to do this, they have to do that. And realistically, like, if you got cancer and almost died, you would then be in a different situation, and as long as you didn't actually die, you would stop doing the thing that you were doing. You're just not effectively motivated. When you see someone you love die, or get very sick, or almost die, or you go through a near-death experience or something like that, it shows you if you're living your life properly or not. Because if you're living your life properly, you can be okay because you're doing what really matters to you. It doesn't matter what other people say about what you should do. It matters how you feel about the way you are living. And we have this tendency to think that other people are doing a lot better than we are. This is not generally true. Most of the time, people are not doing very well. I'm not saying that they're like always all messed up. I'm just saying that typically people aren't doing so great. And you have to understand all these things because it helps understand why people behave the way they do. If you see people do things... Uh-oh. I need to get hit by one of these guys. Come on. Yeah, there we go. If you see the way players behave and you feel confused, it means you don't understand the situation that people exist within. You should not feel confused. You should not feel confused by the behavior of players. And we all do. And this shows that we don't fully understand the circumstance of the person behind the player. Because that's the origin of the player, right? The player is a product of habit produced by the player in response to the game and their life combining together. And you can manage all these things, but if you don't understand this fundamental suffering that's underneath most people, if you don't understand that people often end up loving games, not because of the games, but because they can hang out in voice chat and talk with each other and connect, whether it's toxic or not, fundamentally, people crave this. And even if you look at the most toxic of people, they need to be toxic to others. They can't just do it alone. So even if they are super powerful and whatever, at the damn Detsketo, at the end of the day, whoa, I like the little skull thing. I never noticed that before. That's really cool. At the end of the day, those very toxic people, they're suffering a lot, and they desperately need other people. Even though they treat them horribly, they desperately need them. Because without other people to belittle, without other people to distract them, without other people to attack, the toxic individual must face their life's toxicity. And this is a very challenging thing. So when you read things online and also with comments, what's really happening is you're witnessing the reality that generations of people are mentally unwell and not okay. That's what's going on. And this was all a rant about that because we talk a lot of shit about Iron Gate. Just read the Steam community forums. It's like 40 to 50% people talking shit about Iron Gate, not understanding features and doing all these things. It's really unfortunate because Iron Gate has given us hundreds of hours or thousands of hours of entertainment for $20. And what have we done? For the most part, we've complained about it. We've talked about what can be better, what can be better, what they've done wrong, how are they so stupid, all these things. There's so much content. So I don't blame Iron Gate for being the way that they are, because I've personally been through what it's like to have a bunch of sudden publicity on a much smaller scale than what they went through. And for me, it was a life-changing, defining experience that was one of the most challenging things that I've ever gone through. And my dad died when I was a little kid. Like, I've been through some things. I'm not saying I have the hardest life, but things have happened, right? That was still incredibly hard. So I can only imagine that for Iron Gate, getting all of that publicity and not having tens of people a day talking shit about you, having hundreds, sometimes thousands, that is just sad. And that's why, like, for me, it shows how fucked up people are. You know, the fact that we can talk so much shit about people who've done so much for us, the fact that we can be this sheer level of ungrateful, it shows how wounded we are as people. It shows our lack of empathy. It shows our lack of understanding. And it reveals that we are not doing well. And that's why I was talking about all the other stuff earlier. Because fundamentally, I've gone through a big change in my life. And the thing that has allowed me to much more easily predict player behavior is this understanding that people are inherently suffering. Not everybody, but a lot of them are. And so you can use that awareness to understand how they behave, because people are trying to escape that suffering. And there's certain ways of getting in fights and getting toxic. Oh, I got 2 hits there. There's certain ways of getting in fights and getting toxic that is satisfying to the soul of the one who suffers, because when one is suffering a lot, it is painful to be still and see that. It is painful to reflect upon life and have regret about the way one has treated others. And you may think like, oh, JP, you're full of crap. These toxic people don't have regrets and things. And it's like, you don't get it. They hate themselves. And that's why they're able to hurt other people so easily. They're not happy about it. At least I've gotten to know quite a few people who are very toxic in games and stuff, and I've known them in real life. Not always been very close to them, but I've observed them a lot and talked to them and, you know, had interactions. And I can tell you, like, generally when people are assholes, they're aware of it. And it's not like they want to be. They often suffer a lot because, again, these people really need others. And they're very toxic. And they end up harming other people and alienating them. And this produces this self-hatred. Because deep down, they're aware that they're an asshole. And I don't believe people are this or that. People just behave, right? I'm just talking about the experience that these individuals have, right? And it's not like I'm trying to cater the game to these people. It's like I said, publicity will go up. And if you talk shit about Iron Gate, honestly, you're full of shit. Unless you have been through what it's like to wake up and there's tens or hundreds of people messaging, commenting, saying what you're doing wrong, saying how you fucked up, saying how you ruined things. Unless you have experienced that, then just shut the fuck up. Like, it's so absurd to attack people who have given us a game they have defined as not finished, right? I don't know why I literally thought that was a normal monster I could fight. No idea why. But that's what's happening when I'm talking about something, and I don't, like, if I don't lose track of what I'm talking about, it's because I'm losing track of something in the game. Basically. And yeah, that was my that was my defend Iron Gate rant. Thank you very much. I'm gonna just keep fighting a little bit more here. I actually haven't made that much like material progress because of just the sheer level of like 2-star goblins is intense, and I'm alright with that. That's not a problem. The thing I haven't quite gotten used to is yeah, how the goblins like hunt you down and stuff. It's alright, but I'll get used to it eventually. Also, Lox fighting is very intense. And this whole time I've just been trying to fight one goblin camp. And I don't know about you, but like in vanilla Valheim, even on the harder modes, I can like clear a goblin camp with like a shitten dagger, or what's it called? Not shitten. I always call it shitten, but that's not what it is. I can usually clear a goblin camp with like a couple ooze bombs and an abyssal razor. That's it. It's like not it's not too complicated. But I'm having like a big trouble here because there's so many enemies that are really powerful ones, right? And so the moment you have a couple of those in the group, it's like, oh, it's tough. And I just have to accept, like, I can't fight 4 or 5 goblins. Even though I'm used to doing that, and I love doing that, and it's very fun, at the moment, I can't do it. they're strong enough that I actually, like, can't do it. Let's get my stamina back here before Corp Trunk goes away. I'm learning my lesson. One hit, Dark Souls style. No second hit. Okay, now I second hit. Hey, oh, I got motor. That's funny. As you can see, when you kill empowered monsters, you get rewards. And you'll get like a random buff as well. So sometimes you could get another Corpse Run buff or motor or ether, anything like that. In this case, I got one that's like pretty much completely useless, right? Being able to sail faster. But it's all right. I'm feeling all right about this goblin camp. I seem to have survived. Oh no, it's only 6:02. The internet cut out a little bit earlier, and there's basically a spike at 6 a.m. And if the stream survives that spike, then normally it's fine. But it doesn't always survive that spike, and I think the spike already happened. So it looks like today we're all right. And then in that case, I'm going to use this time to clear the rest of this goblin camp. Because I think now I should be all right. It was just earlier when there's like so many of the goblins that I can't really get that close to it, right? But now I can pick them off more slowly like this. And I have poison arrows, which are crazy, crazy powerful. Especially when you land that first hit, because you get that attack bonus on them, right? So here, I cannot take a hit from this guy. So I should be more careful. Oof. But see, the poison arrows are just absurd. They do so much damage. Alright. And believe it or not, poison arrows were the hardest ones to fix. Or not fix. They were the hardest arrows to buff. Because all the... Oh, jeez, these guys are fast. All of the other arrows... they just required one buff to make them powerful. And sometimes it was too powerful. Whereas poison arrows, I buffed them like 2 or 3 times. And like nothing happens. Like people didn't use them. But as you can see against God, this is like their best, not best use case, but this is the type of monster that poison does the most damage to, most reliably. Goblins are really weak against poison. Just because they're often in groups, it's really easy to poison a bunch of them. And in this case, this is AoE poison. But you don't even need like the Path of Magic stuff. You can just use ooze bombs. Like you can kill a whole group of enemies just with a couple well-placed ooze bombs. I used to do that when I made more vanilla content. Now, I'll probably try and do that again at some point. Because I haven't made... Like, all of my tutorials are super, super niche. And they're really more relevant to server managers. But that doesn't necessarily reach people and make more server managers. See what I'm saying? So at some point... I want to work on some content that reaches people, but in a way that reaches like more normal players and helps them, like increases the chance that some of them become interested in server management. So I think a lot of people just don't know about the depth that Valheim has to offer with the server. And especially now, like that's been true for a long time. But now, there's so many more options with the EWP. Like all of this stuff, all of these mechanical changes, this is all vanilla friendly, you know? Like, there's a whole bunch to it. And people just, yeah, they don't even know about this stuff, like at all. Whoa, I don't want to be punching, what am I doing? I want to have my sword out. Ah, I missed. I'm not sure. Whoa, 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 whoa. I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble. Okay, Goblin. Don't chase me. Chase the tar bomb. Chase the tar bomb. Chase the tar bomb. Oh, God. This is so brutal. I'm in so much trouble. Oh, no. Okay. I got a bubble. Where is he? Uh-oh. Dang, I survived. That was insane. Okay. Tar blobs are so crazy. They're so powerful. It's kind of ridiculous. Hey. All right. So the thing I want to test, really, is when you kill the last monster in the goblin camp, it should give a little alert, basically. Ah, Pan makes a good point. You can dodge roll while tarred. Yeah, that's probably the situation I should actually use dodge roll in. Because I noticed that with Entangled as well. It's pretty much the only way to survive when you get entangled is to dodge roll at the right times. But in this case, it works because the tar blobs make so many attacks that as long as you're blocking in the right situation and there's another enemy, you could get the bubble. So even though I was tarred, he was distracted, and I was able to keep the bubble up, so I lived. Is this the last goblin here? Let's see. How much does one poison arrow do? I think it'll almost kill him. Let's see. They really are absurdly powerful, like 20 damage a tick. See, we got a bunch of loot. Nice. Now we'll be able to put it all in the chest, and I can see this is what you get when you do a goblin camp on Path of Magic. Dang, look at that. Pan says, I also shift escape blows more instead of dodge rolling in normal situations. I guess is it more stamina effective to... Oh, I see. Yeah, so dodging uses a lot of stamina. I mean, it may not seem like it, but like the shifting, this, or how do I do it? 1 second. That is the difference between surviving and dying sometimes. Like you hold shift, and like basically the way it works is that people think that the character walks and runs, but it's not quite that simple, right? So I'm not holding shift and I'm walking around and it's moving the character. If I hold shift, my character moves faster, even if I'm not facing that direction. So the character shows an animation of turning around, right? But the character actually moves its hitbox away, like immediately, pretty much. So it's not necessarily that simple. Ooh. Yeah. See, these Avengers, these seem more reasonable to me, right? This is more what I had in mind. There we go. That was a lot easier than the other the other monsters, which were so dangerous. So it looks like one poison arrow will half kill a 2-star fueling. Because it also originally did damage, right? Uh-oh. Ah, okay, it worked. Hooray! Wait, what? Lightning, but no chest? Interesting. Interesting. And what did I get? I got... No, and it didn't do anything there. So I'm trying to remember. I think I added some kind of... Yeah, I added this visual trigger that should catch now. Unless there's a goblin chilling somewhere. Anybody see a goblin around here? It might be that the goblins over... Oh, I bet those ones are too close. Yeah, I didn't realize these goblin camps are really close to each other. So you probably have to clear both of them to trigger it into thinking you cleared one of them. Which means I have to reduce the radius. So, reduce look radius for goblin clear camp outcome. Okay, awesome. Oh, I love doing these live streams. Is so fulfilling because each time I learn more features to add to the server, and that happens over and over and over and over and over again. And it makes it very, very fulfilling. Because if I just sit and try and come up with ideas, it doesn't really work out so well, to be honest. I can do that much better now, but that's only because I have such a backlog of experiences that have been observed to fall back onto. But normally, it's not that simple. You can't just like come up with a logically sounding idea. You have to try things and observe, right? But now there's so many changes that, yeah, it's just like an endless cycle. And I used to think that it might actually end. Like I could finish Palm to a certain point and release it, and then as if that would be the beginning. But I see now that, no, I should just keep working on it and have fun. And as long as I feel like adding more features, I'll just keep doing that and keep making content and learning about game development. I haven't been making as many tutorials, so that's the next thing to focus on, because up until this point, the tutorials, or sorry, the live stream has been a new thing for me that I needed to study and get used to and practice. But now, I don't really need to practice that anymore. I'm not saying I'm very good at it. I'm saying that like, I know what it does for me and what I want to get out of it. Whereas before it was totally brand new. There's still loads I could do to be a better streamer. I'm not trying to imply I'm like perfect at that. All I'm saying is that it's not new to me anymore, so I know what I want. And what I want is to use the live streams as a part of the YouTube channel, but not its entirety. I don't want to just be a live streamer. I see that the live streaming does a really good job of activating the server and bringing more awareness to it. So it doesn't just attract new players, it also helps the community that's currently on Palm, because it gives existing players a way to like watch little bits of the stream, and then they see how I do something, and then they're like, oh shit, I didn't even know that was a thing. So I can show mechanics, and then it helps the players on Palm learn how to do new things, right? Ooh, and I just had a realization. I was gonna rework these chests because black metal scraps are already plentiful, but we reworked the black metal scraps and they're not as plentiful. So now maybe it's more exciting that they're in here, because this is still a solid source of them. Whereas killing goblins, you get a lot of other stuff, not just the black metal, right? So let's see, if we loot all the black metal from the chests in this camp, what are we gonna get? Let's see. Looks like there's 4 total. Yeah, I think that's all of them. So we have, just from the chests, around 1 stack of black metal from this camp. And then in addition to what the goblins gave us, let's see. What the goblins gave us. Yeah. We got 6 silver, a bunch of copper, iron, tin, 1 stack. So for me, I like this. I want to adjust how, and I've done this a couple times already. Actually, I've been adjusting the drop rates for the metal. But basically, I want to make it so goblins are a source of all metal. And black metal then becomes more desirable because it's more scarce. Black metal is something that I think is sort of a problem in normal Valheim in many ways. One, players, not always. This is definitely just me sharing my opinion. But oftentimes players, they don't really utilize black metal equipment very much. Don't get me wrong, certain things like the black metal axe and the black metal pickaxe, these are utilized by players, I would say, for the most part. Whereas other things are just not really, not utilized by players. And they don't really last that long because you just, at that point, you can do mislands or whatever and get them the better stuff there, right? It's not that complicated. So there's a lot of things I want to address with the black metal. It's not just the fact that goblins drop huge quantities of it, which becomes problematic. It's also the fact that the black metal weaponry itself just doesn't last super long because of how other things are implemented and when you get black metal. and the way the power progression works and stuff. So, it's all just food for thought, but that's why I'm trying to change and adjust the black metal experience. Trying to make it so that it's not so cut and dry. You don't just get loads of black metal from killing goblins. You get lots of stuff. Other things as well, see? Like in this case, for example, we only got a little bit of black metal. And I think that's the key. I know that sounds bad and people won't necessarily like it, but what I've noticed is that you have to make negative space to then make something feel good. So I don't know what to call it in game design, but in art, let's imagine you have a painting and it's of a mountain. And behind the mountain, there is a lot of nothing, right? The mountain is, so to speak, positive space. Whereas the nothing surrounding the mountain is negative space. And so in game design, when I say negative space, I'm talking about when you cause something that is painful to happen. I'm not saying a punishment necessarily, because when you do it right, you don't just cause something you don't just cause something painful to happen. You add a way for people to recover from that pain or protect themselves from that pain. And this becomes a, how do I put it? It becomes a mechanic. And if done right, the presence of something frustrating combined with something very rewarding can fix a situation in a way that might not make sense with like traditional logic. And I'll try and think of an example. Like, so why not speak of the example with the black metal? The black metal is overabundant, right? There's loads and loads of black metal, and players tend to not, in like normal Valheim at least, I'm not saying Palm is exactly the same, because there's other uses for it. You can swap it for iron, you can trade it, there's all sorts of things, right? That being said, black metal's super abundant, and then isn't extensively used too much. So, to make negative space, we remove a lot of the black metal or replace it with other stuff. This produces a situation. Oh, would I survive a hit from that? I don't know if I would. I'm gonna assume I won't without corpse run. Maybe I'll survive now? Yeah, okay. So we make negative space by removing access to a lot of that black metal. And the, so to speak, positive space effect is how it then feels when you get black metal. Because it's more special, right? But it's not that simple, because you can't just make everything very, very, very rare, because then it becomes frustrating. It's all about balancing it. And this is where you have to understand like how to playtest, because you're gonna think you know, but you don't. You're gonna be wrong. And it's important that you observe other players and you observe what they do. Not so much what they say, although that is also important. The reason I say that it's not as important is just because people tend to focus on other things, if that makes sense. So they'll say, this is the problem and this is why, but maybe the problem is something else, and they're proposing a solution, right? And that's what's going on. So in this case, I know it doesn't look like I have a method to my madness, but what I'm trying to do is set the warning off. And not the warning, I'm trying to set off the situation that makes the goblin camp basically alert itself. Let me get a rested bonus though. That's been my mistake here. I think next stream I'll do a building focused stream. But for now, let's see. I love how we can get rested even though we're over here. Hey, good morning, Ping. Welcome, welcome, welcome. You're not late. It's a live stream that gets posted as a video to YouTube. Don't worry. I hope you're doing well. And I'm not finishing up right now. So you're alright. I've been busy getting slaughtered by goblins. This entire stream I've been fighting this one goblin camp. And getting ganked by different monsters. So I get kind of impatient basically. And then I try and run there. And I don't have a dagger. So I forget that Death Skeetos will completely screw me. And also, as you've noticed, I have no regard whatsoever for the day-night cycle. I just act as if it's always daytime. And this is like, I really do have somewhat of a penchant for chaos, I suppose. So we're gonna keep going here. And all I'm really trying to do is test this mechanic that makes the camps, how do I put it? It makes the camps alert when the last goblin dies. But it didn't happen in this camp. And you can make it re-trigger the alert multiple times. So I'm quite confused as to why it didn't happen. And I have a theory that it is because there's this other goblin camp really close by. So what I'm doing is clearing that goblin camp, which should in theory then cause the goblin camp trigger. Especially if I bring them over into this one. Because the trigger occurs when a player kills a goblin and it's not near any other goblins in a goblin camp. So in this case, we're just gonna wreck that shaman a little bit. There we go. And now I want all these guys to follow me. And we're going to slowly poison them all. And deal with them that way. They're gonna get distracted. Getting distracted by all this other stuff, right? Or that skeleton, sorry. And meanwhile, I can use the AoE poison here. And we know that one poison arrow half kills a 2-star fueling. So that means that really I just have to use the poison arrows once or twice. And that's enough to get the goblin. So here we go. They're succumbing to the poison damage now. Let's try and get a bubble from this guy. There we go. Oh, I wonder, maybe it's if... Huh. I'm wondering. Let's see. So Talib says, after the last update of the game, when I open it with the mod, my friend cannot log into my game. After entering the password, it waits on the black screen. So which mod are you talking about? Hey, it worked! Did you see? You see how it says Labrat just slaughtered the last goblin in this camp? That is exactly what I was looking for. So that should have shown up when I killed the last goblin in this camp. It didn't, because the game noticed that there were other goblin close by, so it didn't think it was the last goblin. Which means that the distance it's looking at is too far. And I need to reduce it. But now we should be able to go to this camp and get the same thing to happen again. Yeah, so Talib, I was waiting for you to answer the question of what mod in particular you're talking about. But as Constantine said, double hit. Basically, the most recent update changed some like base fundamental stuff So it's highly likely that your mod broke. Highly likely. In fact, it's guaranteed. Like, this update adjusted the server's awareness of chat. So a lot of things use that, and that was just one of the things the update did. So in your case, it's probably one particular mod, or maybe like 4 or 5. Yeah, unfortunately, when you have a lot of mods on the server, Valheim updates are a nightmare. And personally, I recommend that you just kind of wait maybe a week or so. Don't try too hard to figure it out. It's a lot easier to set Valheim to an old version and then just keep using your mods. But you have to make sure you don't update your mods. And you probably already updated them. Because the mods will try and update when the creator makes a new one, but then they're going to update it to the newest version of Valheim, and you want the older version of Valheim. And that's what this is. Like these features, for example, like, hi, I can do this, and then it shows up in Discord and stuff, and all these things don't work anymore in the new Valheim version. And they probably will. I'm hoping I'm hoping that the modding community will address that. Hopefully in a vanilla friendly way. Because if they don't, I'm sticking palm on old Valheim until deep north. Like in all seriousness. Because it's such a big part of the game, like all these other features that yeah, that's just what I'm gonna do pretty much. Hey, we got a plane scout. Yee, you're so strong. Wow, cool. And then he tried to trade it. That's really funny. Yeah, so we're gonna go over to that other camp, and now it's daylight. And I got a bunch of poison arrows. Probably gonna be fine. Here we go. Okay, so I'm gonna kill this goblin, but I'm gonna do it over here, where I'm in this goblin camp, and I should get that message again, saying that I killed the last goblin. I'm not sure though. Let's see what happens. Egads! Oof, what? What? Oh yeah, the Diverger. That's right. Yeah, there we go. Slaughter the last goblin in the camp. Cool. So each time that happens, there is a chance. Oh, hello. You found a nice little place here. Welcome, welcome. Each time that happens, there's actually a chance for the goblin camp itself to respawn. There's a chance for some other things to happen too. So Constantine says, and I completely agree, by the way, one thing all server owners should learn by heart is do not update your server after the patch goes out. You played months on an old version. Why would you need the new one so urgently? Yeah, very, very true. Especially when it's just like a minor hotfix. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like it removes multiplayer lag problems from Valheim or something. Like, I mean, it makes, it's optimization. You know what I mean? They change some things that make it a bit better. They make it run a bit better. But it's not like game-breakingly better. Make sense? Or game-makingly better, rather. And in that case, yeah, like, most of the time, like, you're better off waiting. Because even if something's been on the, like, test thing, like the public test thing, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's, like, ready, if that makes sense. That doesn't mean that it's immediately gonna work, because you have to keep in mind that Iron Gate develops for the, they develop for their version of Valheim. And this update actually showed me that, like, I guess they don't even think Yeah, I don't know if they even are. Maybe they're less aware of this stuff than I thought. Because I know they know about mods. I'm not saying they don't know about mods, but it's very interesting that they would change the game so that messages go from client to client instead of client to server to client. And that shows that they don't see value, basically, in the server. They viewed it as an unnecessary step that was maybe causing problems. Like, I don't know why they did it, but I'm assuming it's something related to that. Right? And you know what they say, assuming makes an ass out of you and me. But in that case, it doesn't... Well, it just shows that they don't think about servers at all. Because, like... I mean, why would you remove the server's ability to see player messages in a game where, like, communicating and talking with each other in a cooperative way is a fundamental part of the game? And I don't know about you guys, but as, like, someone who runs a Valheim server, the chatting community is more important than, like, any of the mechanics. Like, things like Discord connector and Discord control that increase the transparency of the server and allow people to communicate from their phones to players on the world. These are by far the best, most useful mods for community management in Valheim. They make your players able to play together even when they're not actually online together. And it means that a player can just ask a question when no one else is online, and then they'll get an answer from somebody looking at the chat in Discord. It adds such depth to the experience. And yeah, it was just removed. Like, I love Iron Gate. I'm gonna assume that they had a really good reason to do that. But that being said, this is my least favorite update by far. It literally, this update invalidates so much of Path of Magic that the amount of time I would have to rework systems is shocking. It's like, all to then end up in a situation where there's no live chat and there's no server awareness of player messages. That means none of this, right? No more help messages, no more player activated commands, no more Sayer remove drop, no more triggering builders bunkers, no more like of the server saying things in the same way, because the server can't speak anymore, as far as I know. So it's like, yeah, it's a tough one. Definitely not something I'm like joyful about, in all honesty. But it's fine because I'm just not installing the update, so it doesn't matter, you know what I mean? So Talib said, the game has automatically updated via Steam. I'm a new player and didn't think there would be a problem. Hey, I mean, I don't blame you at all. Like, why would you think that the update that went onto the public test realm for some time and then went public, why would you assume that that should not be downloaded? I mean, we're not talking about Microsoft, you know. I didn't even see that thing. You know what I mean? Well, it's not like, that's what I'm saying. I don't blame you at all. Especially if you're a new player, how are you supposed to know that like mods get wrecked by each update? You know what I mean? You're not necessarily going to be aware of that, but it is completely normal, by the way. This particular update is more intense in that way, so it broke more mods than a normal update. But at the same time, whenever you have a lot of mods, okay, look at it this way. If you have more than 3 or 4 mods on your server, especially if they're by different creators, you cannot install updates when they come out. You cannot. You have to stay on old Valheim. And sometimes you'll have to stay on old Valheim for maybe a whole month. And then you might have to decide, like, oh, to stop using that mod that hasn't been updated. You never really know what's going on. And that's why I stick with EWP. Because Yer is incredible, and he's very reliable. So I make it so the only breakpoints for Path of Magic are Yer and Iron Gate. As long as both of those parties keep things updated, then Path of Magic works. Makes sense? Oh, well, me as well. But if you have like a normal mod pack on a server, then there'll be like 30 or 40 mods. You're gonna have like between 5 and 20 breakpoints. So it becomes statistically like guaranteed that you're gonna have issues each update. So Constantine's definitely right about that. Like, you shouldn't, in general, if you're playing on modded Valheim, you should not install new updates automatically. And if you have a server, you definitely should not install updates automatically. And in general, even for things like EWP and the mods that I use, I don't install the most recent versions on Path of Magic. I let a couple weeks pass and then I update it. And I find that this is just it's a smoother experience that way. What are these arrows? Oh, needle arrows. Oh, cool. And so I have a good feeling about this. I think it's daytime. We got these poison arrows. Let's try and poison each enemy. Okay, we got him. We just need to get this big old goblin brute over here. There we go. Now that guy, he's gonna be a problem. I always have to keep my eye on the ranged enemies because they're the ones that can get you. Those spears hit really hard. Oh no! Oof, that was close. It's so funny how when that happens, in real life, I like yank my head to the right as if that's gonna make my character in the game dodge. It's like when people play racing games and they like tilt the steering, the controller. You know what I mean? As if it's gonna like turn the car in the game or something, right? It's pretty funny. Uh-oh, uh-oh, uh-oh. Ooh, that was close. Okay, now when I kill this final goblin, I should get the trigger that this is, or that I killed the last goblin in the goblin camp. And this has been some really solid playtesting, to be honest. I think I could make something work where like each stream I build and then I do some combat the next one. So like each stream is either combat themed or building themed. Because something I struggle with is like predicting what I'm gonna end up doing. Because I can say, oh, I'm gonna be doing this. But then what if I die and get sent back to the center of the world? You know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna be doing something else. So, sometimes things happen. You know, it's just how it is. Alright, there's another goblin somewhere. I guess it was that. Ah, yeah, it was that shaman. Where is he? Ah, there he is. No, I didn't get any message for clearing this one. I guess that means there is a goblin like on the outskirts here somewhere. Let's look around a little bit real quick. I wonder where they might be. You know, it's interesting how at night it's more dangerous, but also at the same time, because the skeletons are aggressive, it actually can help break the fighting up because it gives the goblin something else to chase, which gives the player a little bit more time. But in this case... Hey, there he is. Okay. So there was a Goblin Avenger somewhere, probably. And now if I take him into the camp and kill him, I should get the message. Oh, and there's another Goblin there, too. Maybe that's why. But, ooh, it looks like I missed some of them. Alright, we're gonna try and get... Okay, this Avenger... Oof, oof, oof. Ah, he'll try and hit me there. Perfect. Let's get him stuck here. I guess maybe he'll come into the house and then I can fight him here. Now when I kill this last one, then in theory, it'll work. Yeah, there we go. Cool. And so now you can see like, oh, okay, it's just a text saying Lab Rat killed the last goblin in the camp. But that is the trigger, and then I can make anything possible react to that trigger. Make sense? So I wanted to verify that the trigger actually works properly, because then we can play with the weights and things. We can make it so certain events happen after you clear the camp, or there's a chance that the camp respawns itself, etc., etc., etc. And these are all actually put in already. They're already in the game, so to speak. The rates just aren't super common. So that's why I triggered it like 3 or 4 times. But all that happened is we got that message, right? Maybe some other goblins showed up. But aside from that, it was pretty normal. And that is because the rates are quite low at the moment. So there's not a very high chance of an event happening. That's alright. I'm not trying to make it be too intense, and I found that in general it's better to keep things infrequent than too frequent, because too frequent educates the players too much about the mechanics, and then the players can much more easily bypass mechanics. So in general it's better to, how do I say, make it so that the players educate themselves on a slow trickle. That way they don't learn too much too suddenly. And that's something I've been practicing on with Palm. Another accident that's unfolded is how you can make, like, how do you incentivize people in a game? Right? Because let's say you give them a sword. Well, okay. What about all the other ways they could get sword? Right? But at the same time, that invalidates things, right? So what seems to work better is using other kinds of rewards, other kind of things that players enjoy. But doing that requires more creativity and testing on the part of the game developer. So I think that's why it tends not to happen. Game developers tend to use very simple rewards that are direct, like giving a player a good sword for beating a quest. What I'm trying to get at is that if you give somebody something that they have to learn how to use, on one hand it can create problems, but on the other hand it creates depth. Something happens when the players have so many things to learn that they can't just absorb all of them. There's this benefit to complexity in video games. It's kind of like in a game, like, let's talk about a simple game to imagine, like RuneScape. There's so many different skills that there's different things to do. There's maybe too many different things to do, right? That's more direct. Whereas what I'm talking about in Valheim is like indirect things. So when the player learns, all right, I've been doing this, and then they learn a new way to do it. And the new way is more efficient, right? But they didn't learn it by Googling it. They learned it by trying things and discovering that there's a more effective solution. That's what I'm talking about. That moment where the player benefits from knowledge about the game's mechanics, not a statistic, a number, increased strength, increased damage. These are the easy things to do, but I would argue that there are consequences for developing a game where you use a lot of these easy adjustments, and it's gonna make the game kick players out of their immersion over time. You have to figure out how to keep intellectually rewarding players. It's kind of like, imagine a game like checkers, and imagine you are playing against another person who knows checkers very well. Checkers is a simple game, but you don't have the advantage because you're playing it the first time, so you're probably going to get beaten a lot. Your experience probably won't be a very enjoyable one, because you don't have it's not necessarily because you're not winning, it's because it can be challenging to learn in a situation where there's things working against you. Like, don't get me wrong, you can learn a lot from someone who's really good at checkers just by playing against them and seeing what they do. But the new experience for the opponent is more like people learn from each other, but they're not very good at systematically learning from each other, if that makes sense. So most of the time, people get more frustrated with each other than they actually learn things. At least from my perspective. So when we develop things in video games, one of the rewards we can give is mechanical. So you can make mechanics that every single player experiences, and they're all gonna have to experience, right? But you can also make mechanics or rewards that are mechanics. I don't know if that makes any sense, but uh-oh, he's gonna get me, Oh, he didn't get me. Okay, cool. Like, for example, the Builder's Bells. That's a mechanic that is a reward from knowing how to make a Builder's Bell. A normal player would have no idea. They could technically make it, but they have no idea that they can make a bell that fears weaker enemies, right? So in that way, it doesn't incentivize them. But then once they learn about it, once they learn it exists, then suddenly it's like, oh, that would have been really useful. And the moment they feel like, oh, I wish I had known that, something happens. They get something from it. You see what I'm getting at? It's this more indirect way of incentivizing players to do stuff. Whereas normally people are incredibly direct. I'm suggesting that there's ways to add depth to the experience by being more indirect. And that's one of the things that I'm studying on Path of Magic, because I can learn a lot from having this experience and then apply it, extrapolate it out, so to speak, into other situations, right? Now I just got to get hit by this first goblin here. Yeah, there we go. It's funny how just timing the hit, that's everything. So I'm just going to take this this cart a little bit closer to the base, and then we'll be ready for some building in the next episode, which will be on Monday. Now I'll keep working on the tower. Now I really have loads of resources, so I got stuff to smelt. So I might work on that next, we'll see. But for now, let's try and get all these fueling to... There we go. We'll just get them to attack us in the right place, basically. Uh-oh. Maybe I can use the cart. Yeah, there we go. Uh-oh. Oh. He stole my bubble. I might be able to survive this guy. Let's see. Yeah, okay. I have a lot of health food at the moment. They go so far away. You know what? Here, I know what to do. We need to use these rocks. I'm gonna go for the weaker one. That's another thing of, I guess it's like combat triage, right? You go for the ranged enemy first, but then also you go for the weaker enemies so that you can reduce the quantity of the attacks, basically. Ooh. It would be fitting to die right at the end. This seems like really high stakes for me. I don't know why, but it feels intense. I got this. I honestly, I really love the how effective the melee bubble shield became. Like there's something definitely real about the way the moment you stop blocking and take 2 hits, you die. But as long as you stay focused and don't let yourself take 2 hits at the same time, you can keep the bubble shield up and active, right? There's something about that I know, I can just feel it. That's what I'm going for. I'm onto something there. The loop, the way it makes the combat feel, the way it influences the melee. It's definitely what I'm going for. Alright, and I think, you know what? I'll end things here. I'll just finish responding to Constantine here. So, Constantine says, just found out that only 8 of the 32 quality of life mods I use have been updated. Not gonna update anything at all. Honestly, yeah, I mean, it's better to just turn auto updates off in general, and then just do what you need, and then move forward from there. That's a good way to do it. And Constantine, in response to me talking about more of the Goblin Camp triggers, says, I vote a full respawn. It would be a nice way to get more black metal. Yeah. The problem, though... So, basically, the camps can respawn already. It's a chance to happen, but in a way that catches the player a bit off guard. So, that's already a thing, but I'm hesitant to make it reliable each time, because you can respawn a goblin camp with 999 coins, and in general, the goblins in the camp will drop more than that. So if I make it more automatic or more common for the respawn to happen, then it takes away from that benefit. Make sense? So I can show real quick before I end, actually. I'll show you a list of the changes that I have made so far. And then you can chew on it. And if you have any other ideas, what we're figuring out is there's 2 kinds of events in the Goblin Camp. There's as you're killing goblins inside the camp itself, right? What's up with this? What? That's so weird. Oh, because he's tough. Okay, I see. I was like, why was he floating there? But you're killing goblins inside the camp itself, right? And that can get noticed. And then each time you do that, there's a chance for something to happen, right? And this is the chance to start bringing in some monster combat. To bring in a diverger that comes in, or bring in something that will interact with the goblin in some specific way, right? So if we keep going here, we'll go to the expand prefabs. We're looking for the Spicer for Goblin Camps. So I'm going to open that up and then show you real quick, and then I'll talk about it. So here we have this. Let me get it into Sublime. It's so much better to look at things when you can see the colors, I swear. Alright, awesome. So now I need to switch over my recording thing, and then I'll talk about what's going on. Alright, we're going to go to our upper desktop screen here. Let's embiggen the text a bit. So this is the Goblin Spicer script. I'm not going to tell you how everything works, but I'm going to use it to talk about what's going on. So in general, this is something that happens when a player kills a goblin in a goblin camp within 30 meters. And there's no other goblins around, then we get the message, just got the goblin. So what I determined earlier is this number is too big. 30 meters is a radius of 30, so that means 60 meters total, right? 30 meters outward from the center of the goblin camp. This overlapped into another goblin camp, so probably it needs to either be 15 or maybe just 20. I'll leave it at 20 for now, and I can play test it later. So that's all that this is. That first part was just noticing that last goblin gets killed, and then it does a command, and then it does this thing. And this thing can have different outcomes. So it'll always try and do this. But the chance of things happening is low, right? This is 2%, 4%, 10%, 10%, 10%, okay? So it'll always roll it once, but then there's a chance that it won't succeed on any outcome. So then nothing happens. And that's like, I don't know, it's like 60% chance nothing happens. I don't remember exactly what the math boiled down to. So here we have a situation where the player kills the last goblin in the camp, and then they get a goblin raid on them. And a message saying, the goblins called in reinforcements to defend the camp, right? Then the same kind of thing, but stronger because this is the second goblin raid. And then here we have, all right, this is the one we were talking about, Constantine, where you kill the last goblin, and then it says, the goblin quickly bribe Odin to reset the camp that player name is in, and then it does a location reset on the camp itself, which for the player is the experience of like everything disappears and then respawns all around you, which is very problematic. It's dangerous, right? So this is a dangerous outcome that resets the entire camp, but does it in a way that is like on top of the player. But this can only occur if there's not a tombstone there, because it's one thing to lose your tombstone to a weekly reset, but in this case, just dying once and then clearing a camp could destroy a tombstone, right? And I don't want that to happen because the player has no way of knowing that that's a thing. So I ban it from being possible if a tombstone's present. So if you have tombstones near the goblin camp, even on the outskirts, it's going to prevent this outcome from occurring. Make sense? Then we also have this other style, which is where like each time that outcome happens, you kill the last goblin in the camp, there's a chance to surround the camp with a different monster. So in this case, it's Loxen. 4 Lox show up. In this case, it is Goblin Brutes. 4 Goblin Brutes show up. In this case, it's ranged Goblin Archers. In this case, it's Goblin Shaman. Here, it's Tarblobs. And then this one is really rare, and no one's seen it yet. So I won't go over it too much, but let's say it's called Goblin Horde. And then we have a different kind of Spicer. Here we have the items that are basically, these events happen as you are fighting in the camp, not when you kill the last monster. So as you're fighting in the camp here, then you can get a bat raid, which is interesting because they're not going to just attack the player. They're also going to attack the camp. And these are the ones that the idea is to add some helpful events, right? Like here you're being hunted, but you're in a goblin camp. So the wolves are going to get distracted by the goblin and fight. So it actually makes it easier for the player. Same with all of the raids that are a faction that the goblins are aggressive towards. The goblins get distracted and it buys the player time. And I find that this adds depth, as opposed to just making it goblins versus player all the time. Like, there's even a situation where the trolls can attack. And the idea here is that instead of a player making the raid, which is technically what's happening, it's a raid on the player. But because the player is in a goblin camp, it's like, oh, the nearby trolls happened to come here and attack, and you're just there, but those goblins were going to be attacked anyway, right? Because that's something that Valheim really shines in. I love the monster on monster combat. It's really something I lean into and try and encourage whenever possible. And so that's pretty much it. That's how things currently work on Path of Magic. Is you do these things with the goblin camps, and then there's chances for all these things to happen. And this is one of my favorite updates, to be honest. The dungeons were cool, but they're more abstract and it's hard to wrap the head around. Whereas this is pretty simple. You just fight at the goblin camps and different things happen. And I really like that. I think that with some more polish, we can make the goblin fighting experience quite entertaining. And with that, that is all for now. Thanks for watching, everybody, this episode of The Path of Magic. If you want to support my work, then consider renting your own dedicated Valheim server and using some of my tutorials to learn how to set all of this stuff up. I've got lots of information available for people and lots of fully detailed, long guides that have everything you need to know. Alternatively, you could support me on Patreon. It's a fantastic way to motivate me. I'm shocked that people have already been playing on the server and supporting it. Like, there's people who pay for it like it's an MMO, and like that is so motivating for me, and it helps me cover other costs of things. So I really, really appreciate that. And if you want, even if you just want to support for a month, you don't have to support all the time or indefinitely. And you know, if you stop playing, stop supporting. That's okay. I'm really grateful for anything that I get, in all honesty. And alternatively, you can like this video, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more kind of Valheim content like this. I'm dedicated to Valheim. Like, I'll probably make some like one-off videos, like some video gaming essays and stuff about game design. But as far as my bread and butter, I mean, it's gonna be Valheim. So even though it's niche content, like, I have no intention of stopping this anytime soon. So you can expect that when I do content, it's gonna be Valheim related or game development related. So thanks for watching, and I will see you on Monday in the next Path of